All right, welcome back to the Monica Brant Show. I'm Monica Brant. We've got superstar IFBB pro, Olympia bound Wendy Fortino in the house as co-host, and we are talking to legendary athlete, leader, oh my goodness, everything under the sun, Tanji Johnson. Bridgman?
Yes, you got it
right. Okay. Gotta remember you're a wife. I mean, we've been talking about all these other things, and we really haven't even talked about you being a wife, because I know that husbands, you require something. They're not just that eye candy for us. They're like they get married for a reason, to have a wife around. So it's crazy, right? It's crazy to think that, all of the stuff you've done, and like, where does the time for the husband? But right. I assume that, like everything else, you have managed to figure that out, because it's important to you to be a wife. So, and just like everything else, we make what's important to us, and we make things happen when they're important to us. Right. So, I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit different direction right now, because I know you're a Christian and you're a follower of Jesus. And so I'm curious about your faith, and, I know you and I have always known that about one another, but we've just never had that conversation. So I'm curious, when did you become a Christian? Is that something you grew up with? Is it something as an adult you became a Christian? And just how has your faith affected your goals, your career, your marriage, your business, your leadership skills? Like, how is that? How do you utilize your faith in that? Because I think we kind of touched on this earlier. I feel like a lot of people have their faith, and then they have everything else, and they don't know how to mix the two and blend the two. And I think God expects us as Christians to be able to do that. And he gives us how to do it in the Bible if we read it. Right. I mean, there's so much. 17 books. There's 17 books in the Bible on wisdom.
Right.
It's crazy. And, people don't take the time to go read, well, God created us, and how did he create us? And then what's his wisdom about how we live? And I'm just mesmerized every time I read scripture to be like, I want more of it, and I want more to sink in and to stay with me. So anyways, I'm going to quit talking so I can hear you.
Well, I was raised in the church, as far as my, parents took us to church every Sunday, and we were in Sunday school. And, I would say I don't feel like I personally accepted Jesus Christ really as my Lord and Savior, and really understood what that meant, and was more, very serious about it until I was in college. So I was exposed to it, but it wasn't anything that was hammered in. It was more like, that's just what we did. We went to church on Sundays, and we enjoyed Sunday school. We played with our friends, and it was just, it's like going to school. It's something you did, but my real relationship didn't even start until I was in college. And I remember joining the gospel choir and singing.
Okay, wait a minute. Air Force Academy. She was college.
Oh.
College. I'm like, wait a minute. You're in the Air Force Ivy Academy kicking ASS, like varsity cheerleader. All the things. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to join the choir. I'm sorry. I had to interrupt you. And thank you, Lord, for having humor and allowing us to have humor. But I was like, okay, another.
It was wonderful, though. It was really wonderful, because I fell in love with gospel music and being able to sing and be around other people that were praising the Lord. And I specifically remember one time we were singing a song, and you know what it's like? You guys know what I'm talking about, where you've seen people experience the Holy Spirit, but maybe you hadn't yet, so you don't get it. And you're just kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. But this one particular time, that's when I felt the Holy Spirit, and it was so big and so real. And after that point, I really understood that faith was not just what you believed in, but it was having a relationship with God. And that's when it started for me. So from that moment to this moment, in this very second right now, I have lived my life with this presence aligned with me, being a part of me. And that's so different, when you don't have that. And so for me, as I get through life, what's hard about Christianity and religion sometimes is you get fixated on these principles and the rules. And a lot of people, they struggle with faith because, we're not perfect. And so as we're striving to be better people and we fail constantly there's all that disappointment in our inability to be better in the ways that we want to. But what's always helped me is recognizing that it's really about the relationship. And so that's the thing that I've had to try to really hold tight is it's a relationship. It's a relationship. It's a relationship. And if you have that relationship, like you do with your parents, you know, if the father gets to stay the father in your life, he's always there to guide you, you know, when you need him. And so it's been, for me, when I think about how my faith impacted my career, the best word I can say is it kept me grounded. And what I mean by that is I think it could be a sport, it could be your career, it could be a relationship with a man. It's so easy for us to build up treasures, right? Earthly treasures. And if you get addicted to those treasures, or if you idolize those treasures, you know, like, for example, I'll never forget, like when I did American Gladiators, I put it on this huge pedestal, like, oh my gosh, this is going to change my life. I'm totally going Hollywood. We're going to go on tour. My whole life is going to change. And then I tear my ACL, right? And just like that, it's over, right? I don't make it back for season 2. The show never, after season 2, the show doesn't come back. And that's how it is to live on earth. Like whatever your treasures are, it can be fleeting at any moment, whether it's your physical ability, your looks, your possessions, things that you idolize. And so what's always helped me is to remember what my real treasures are. And God has helped me do that. So even when I was competing, as much as we trained to win, the real treasure was the journey and how I evolved to become a world-class athlete. It was not the win. It was my whole experience. And God helps ground me with that. And so for me, the faith has been what's kept me grounded. I don't think that if I didn't have my faith, just like so many other people, I probably would have given up too early. I would have quit. I would have gotten disgruntled. But because I had a foundation of faith, and I always had this big picture outside of what was going on that kept me grounded.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Tanji.
It's relationship, not religion. And I just love that because that's so important for people. And people don't really understand what that relationship looks like because it's a God that we can't see, but it's a God that we feel, just like we can't see the wind, but we feel the wind. We can see the action from the wind and the leaves falling and the trees blowing or whatever, the chimes chiming. Like you can see what the reactions are from that wind, but it's the same thing with God once you have that relationship built up and then you seek him. So I have every year I ask God to give me a word that is important to me personally and my relationship with Jesus. So this year, the word for me has been seek, S-E-E-K. And I wonder if you have a word that you feel God has given you for yourself. And if you haven't thought about it, maybe in the next few minutes while we're talking, maybe a word will come to you that, and if not, no big deal. But I feel like seek is the word because right now there's so much information out there on so many levels of so much stuff. Everything is coming at us. And just like it says in prophecy, it will. Right. It's going to be overflowed of information. But I feel like Jesus is telling me, just seek my word. Just seek me in the middle of all of this stuff. And you will be fine and you will have peace. Because it says also in scripture, we're supposed to pursue peace. Well, and how do we pursue peace unless we have the peace of God that, surpasses all understanding? That's so true. Right. And so it's so fun to get to hear your story about that. So is your husband also a believer? And
Yes.
So that makes
that was a requirement.
Right.
It took me a long time to find one.
It had to be. Oh my gosh. We could go off in a whole nother story and a whole nother conversation about marriage and relationship and all of that. So that's wonderful to hear because you guys are aligned in this time. I never realized when I married my husband I'm with now, I knew where his heart was. And like you, that was my number one goal. But I never knew how important that would be in a situation that we're living in now with all of the things coming at us and knowing that we are like-minded and the most important thing. And then all these other things are also like-minded because we were aligned in the most important thing first with our
That's true.
relationship with him. So
That's
that's beautiful. That's so pretty. So in in your conversation, I like to listen to interviews because it helps me to hear more sides of the person that I'm interviewing. So I always do that. I'm always like listening to the interviews. And sometimes when I get to talk to the big, the guys, it's like I'm listening to their big, conversations with other men and stuff. So it's fun. And I'm always like, well, what about this stuff? But you had talked, and the guys are like, oh, okay, girly stuff. But you had talked about suffering, and you had kind of had a conversation about suffering and that it, and because I felt like it was similar to how I view suffering. Like we have to go through suffering in order to become, or get to that next level, or to be who God wants us to be. And he says that we will suffer in life. Like it's not going to be easy. So I have a question here. Where's my notes? What advice would, I'm sorry, first of all, between family, Air Force Academy, fitness, etc., how has that suffering through those pieces helped you manage life and how you view life?
Well, I look at suffering as something to not be afraid of, as something that's going to elevate you, right? And so I specifically remember one of my contest preps where I was doing a lot of running. The diet was hard. Preps are always hard. But this particular time, I remember wanting to kind of pay tribute and honor God in the suffering. And I remember just thinking about Jesus suffering for that 40 days and 40 nights. And I thought, if he can do that, right, then this could be my suffering that's going to yield to something wonderful and amazing. And it really motivated me to suffer. So my whole attitude about suffering kept evolving to where it's like, man, I'm proud to suffer. I'm ready to suffer. I want to suffer because I can't wait to see what this is going to yield. And so even when I was talking about my journey on that honor guard at the Air Force Academy, I knew that for a whole school year, every day after school from about 4 to 7 p.m., I was going to suffer. And as long as I showed up every day to suffer, the person you were going to get at the end of the year was going to be one tough cookie, right? And so I took that into the bodybuilding industry. And I thought, if I suffer through this prep, I'm probably going to come out with the best routine and the best physique I have ever had. And that is going to be amazing. And so suffering, if you change your attitude about suffering, you're not afraid of it. You won't resist it. You'll lean right into it and it'll elevate you. That's
so important. And, I think nowadays most people just don't want to suffer. Like, I think our generations are different. And I know there's exceptional people that are younger, but I just feel like what I have seen in, helping to raise the little young lady I've been raising, like, I don't see many kids that in the general, I don't see a lot of them that want to do that, whether it's athletics or whatever. I know there's exceptions, 100%. I've seen those too. But man, I just see that there's so many kids that they just want, to be protected. And I don't want to get, my head hurt or my legs to hurt from running too fast, or, like it's too hard. It's so hard. I'm like, I don't want to hear it's hard anymore. Like, so what advice, and let me see if I got this question. It made sense to me when I wrote this down. What would you advise someone that may not have experienced much real suffering, or they've kept themselves from it, but now they want to have a goal? Maybe you just touched on that. What would you advise them in that area of, like, does that make sense? That the question?
Yeah. Okay. I would say to be motivated by the potential growth, that it's really hard to grow if you don't suffer, struggle, or if there's no challenge. It's just, there's no growth. Growth doesn't just happen by itself. And so for whatever it is that you want to achieve, having confidence that if you allow yourself to go through that journey, you will come out better, and to be inspired by that.
Perfect. We need to have that written down and put it out. We need to put it out there. Okay. So, and then let me just check my note here. So you've also talked about the why, which is, I love it, because when I did all my events, I always talk to the girls about the why. Like, you got to have a bigger reason than just winning, because if you don't win, which is, this is a subjective thing, and maybe you're just maybe the people just overlook you, even though you're the best you'll ever be. Like, it happens. It just happens, right?
Right.
So can you explain for the viewers that may not have heard about your reason for why people need to have a why? Like, how do you explain that when you talk to someone for maybe the first time about having a why? How do you explain that to somebody?
Well, I think so. When you have a goal, if you don't have a why, the why helps to define your purpose. So if you're doing something and the purpose isn't strong enough, then you'll look at the motivation to do what needs to be done, and it'll start to crumble if the purpose isn't strong enough. And so, when people, like, let's say you look at school, you're going to go to school, you're going to go to college for 4 years. Well, why? What's the purpose? Are you going to become an astronaut? Is it so you can get a high-paying job?
Right.
Some people just go to school because they think that's what they're supposed to do, or because someone told them to do it. They never really take the time to internalize it. And so they just slough through school. And they don't make the best of it, and it doesn't do crap for them. They get their degree and it doesn't do crap for them, or maybe they don't even finish, right? And so for other people, they realize they didn't even need school in order to achieve what they want. So for them, it was the right decision to leave because they didn't really need it. It didn't fit their why. They were just doing it because somebody told them to. So I think the why is important because it gives you purpose. And without purpose, the actions that are required for that goal probably aren't going to happen.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to take any of your clients and help them develop a why?
Yeah. So actually, one thing that I always did, I have what I call a pre-contest consultation. Anytime somebody wanted to work with me for posing nutrition, or they just wanted to get a consultation and learn more about competing, I would actually take them through the journey of the who, what, why, how, and when, and help them define all of that. Because some of these people realize, oh, I'm just doing, let's say a why is, I just want to transform into my best body. That person might be able to get on stage in 6 months to a year and be nowhere close to winning because they just started working out and they're currently overweight, right? But their why is not to win the trophy. It's to get motivated and transform their body. And they need to make a massive investment and get in front of a lot of people to do it. And so when they're 2 months out and they're panicking in posing class because they don't look as good as the other girls, I have to remind them of their why. And it helps bring them back full circle to give themselves grace, to remind themselves, I'm getting competitive, but remember, my why was not to be competitive. If they would have told me, I want to compete and win and be the best, I would have said, okay, let's work out for 5 years and then talk about competing. So I really have to help people match their why, because my job is to help tell them what show should they do. I can't tell somebody what show they can be ready for until I know their why.
I just want to add really fast. I think it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people, they see something that they want, right? And then they see all of this fantasy stuff that goes along with it. So they have a perception of what is going to happen to them. And unfortunately, I think that people chase after that so much because they're looking for that outcome-based reward, right?
Yeah.
When I get there, everyone's going to think I'm amazing. I'm going to be adored. I'm going to have the most followers on Instagram. It's going to be like, all these things are going to happen to me. But that is, that why will always lead to the crumbling. There's this big, because if you get it, then it's like poof, like there's nothing to hang on to. So the thing that's interesting that, I have realized is, I have always wanted to get there because I knew that if I could achieve a high level of success, I could have a bigger platform and I could reach more people. And so you could meet more people, reach more people, impact more people. And if that's your goal, if your goal is to achieve this high goal, because you know that if you did, you'd have more people that you could help.
Right.
Like people are so focused on and honed in on what it will do to them. It's like that narcissistic kind of mentality of like, how does it happen? What happens to me? How do I feel? What does it happen to me? Versus what can I do for this sport? What will I be able to do for people if I achieve this?
Exactly.
And for me, whenever I help people figure out their why, that's kind of where I go. It's like, why do you want to be adored? Why do you want everyone to like you? What is that going to give you in your soul?
Right.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like how you're going full circle with, if we all think about this utopia of what we want the world to be, it would really be all of us being the best version of ourselves. We're all so uniquely built, so designed differently, right? And so if we're truly just trying to show up better and be better, then what are the life experiences that are going to develop that? For some people, it's a competition. For me, it started with the Air Force Academy, and then it was bodybuilding, and then it was business opportunities, right? And just like you said, when you get to that place where you are a better version of yourself, now look at how you're contributing to society. Look at how the impact you're making as a coach, as a leader, as a teacher, as a wife, as a parent, as a mother, right? And so what I think is beautiful, I was at the Naval Academy speaking at a leadership symposium, and one of the cadets asked me, she said, because I told a story about how for 18 years, I sought to win the Olympia. And I came in second place like 4 times. I won other titles, one of several Arnolds, but I never won the Olympia. And when I retired, instead of feeling like a failure, I felt like a winner, right? And when I look back at my career, I feel like I've created a legacy. And again, there's nothing negative, even though I didn't reach that goal. That was my most coveted goal, but I didn't reach it. And so I explained to her, she said, so I'm just kind of curious to know, how do you have this attitude if you didn't win? Because she was telling me she was struggling with that because there's areas where she has, failed. And she's like, I just want to have that mindset. And I just told her, it's how you define success. You have to redefine success. And what I defined success was the fact that I made it through my journey where I evolved and elevated as an athlete to where in that 18-year period, this is the body I created. This is the level of talent I developed. I mean, I wasn't doing handstands 18 years ago. I wasn't doing plyo push-ups. I didn't know how to diet. I didn't have that level of discipline. And so for me, it reminds me also, like when I walk around the industry, even though I never won the Olympia, people still call me the champ. And I have a feeling that they're calling me a champ because I have a champion mindset. I perform as a champion. I conduct myself as a champion. And a champion is someone who doesn't give up. They do what needs to be done. They take personal responsibility, right? And so in all those ways, that's how I was able to redefine success. And that's what I want to leave with other people, because I see people having low self-esteem and getting so discouraged, but it's really just their mindset and their perspective on how they view their own.
But your thing, though, it's interesting because you finished off, having this idea of success, but a lot of that has to do with what you invested along the years. So the 18 years you competed, you invested all of those relationships, everything that you created. Your legacy really was built and created over that course. So when you walked away, you had created all that, which wasn't going to go away. Whereas it's difficult to explain that to people, have almost like a retroactive way of thinking of it. Like, imagine if you did get that success. That's what I tell you. Imagine if you had exactly that thing that you want. Look back at all of the time that you spent investing into that final outcome, and what are those achievements? And a lot of times people, they're empty in those whole, all of that whole spreadsheet. You were so rich and so fulfilled and so much investment that all of that was so rich and so full that it didn't matter what the actual outcome would have been,
Right. It reminds me of when I won the Arnold Classic, because my husband and I we're just looking at old YouTube videos, and we found my speech with Arnold. I cannot believe I literally just took the microphone for him. He comes up to me, I'm crying, and he's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, I went like he had the microphone, and I was like, and he wouldn't even let go. So I'm holding the microphone while he's holding it. And I'm like, Arnold, I've been competing in your show since 2002, trying to win your show for 10 years. And it took me 10 years to get you to come over here and shake my hand. but you know what, Monica, that's probably the other most special moment in my life, because it took me 10 years to win that show. I had gotten runner-up, third, fourth, fifth, runner-up. So, I've gotten every placing you can think of, even second to last. So to win that show after 10 years, like, you know, if you were to ask me, knowing what you know now, if you could have won it 4 years ago, 6 years ago, second year in, I would have said, no, I don't want it. I want it exactly at the 10-year point because it was so sweet, so special. And honestly, the athlete that I became because I lost for 10 years is probably so much better than if I would have won right away. I probably would have gotten lazy and took it for granted and thought I was hot shit, you know what I mean? And just stunted my own growth. And so that's one of the things I look at my career and I'm like, oh, it was so special to win the Arnold Classic after 10 years. I love that. Mm-hmm. Not many people will say that.
No, so special. I agree. I totally agree. I had to write things down because as we're talking, I didn't want to forget. But one of the things is that the three of us all go back to generations where there was no social media. Mm-hmm. And even I like go back to where I didn't have a cell phone and, you know, and then you have the pager. And so I think that kind of, Wendy, you were hitting on this, you know, about the whys and, you know, why is it so important to, you know, you just want a bigger platform. You want to be seen more, like, you know, and I guess now that people are kind of built into this, like, or the social media is built into them. And it's, I think ruined some people, right? Ruined the new generations to think that that's their identity, right? It's how many followers, how many people looking at them, and they're so addicted. I mean, I see some of the young kids that my husband works with in the horse industry, and they're just like, they can't stop taking Snapchats of themselves while they're on the horse trying to become a world champion with my husband training them, like it's the horse stuff. And I'm like, put your phone, like it's just another appendage to them, but they can't quit like looking at, okay, who reacted to my thing and is it going to go viral? And I just feel like, you know, we probably have a similar mindset and why we've all been successful in our own worlds and the level of time that we've all spent in this, because we go back to those places before that and we have a different opinion of what's important. And then the other thing is just about our identity. And I think sometimes people get so wrapped up in the identity of, well, if I win, then I can be Olympia champion, or whatever that thing in their head is their identity. And when it doesn't happen, like you said, it didn't happen and you're still successful, you're still a champion, and everyone remembers how amazing you are, your integrity, your routines, your smile. Like there's so many things people think about when they hear your name. It's never, oh, she didn't win the Olympia, but that was never your identity.
I won Olympia champion. I did.
Well, that's why when we started, I had to make sure that Tanji agreed to my things in the intro. But you know, those are things that it wasn't about your identity. You are God's child. And then you're all these other amazing things that you have, that you've built for yourself because of your tenacity, because of your dedication, because of your drive, your focus, and you're using the talents God's giving you. And I think that's why you're successful, because you know, when you look back on that, you know, 18-year span and then the years before in the Air Force, and like you've done everything to succeed and give yourself an opportunity to succeed. And, you know, hey, fitness is subjective sport. And we all know that, figure, bikini, all of it, right? There's so many variables. So, you know, 100%, you are a champion with or without that title. But I just think the word identity is so important. And I heard on one of the ladies I like to listen to, she's a pastor and I love to listen to her messages and stuff. But she talked about the me generation. You know, and they call it the me generation because it's this new kids coming up. I think it's like from 1998 or 1999 born those years and forward, and they're calling them that. So anyways, you know, I think we're all cut from similar mold.
I know. It's so good to be with you guys right now.
And I know me and Wendy, you know, we've had so many talks and I hear things that you're saying and I'm like, it triggers some memories of mine that were similar. And it's like, you know, it's so fun to just hear how there were some similarities. Of course, a lot of things different, but some similarities for all of us as we went through this career. And this is why the show is so cool. We get to really touch on all those things and be able to hear the legacy that you've created and has blossomed out into all the other avenues of life. So, okay, so we're going to have to wrap it up here. I know we could keep talking because all three of us have plenty of things to say, but I want to ask you, can you just share here, any websites that people can find you, what you have coming up, and where you're going to be judging next?
All right.
Yeah. And then also, I know, we haven't really talked about your chiropractic and wellness center, but if you want to just share a website or whatever, people can look for that, I mean, there's so much more, but let's, we got to go.
There's so many different social media platforms. I remember every time a new one comes up, I just roll my eyes like, oh my gosh, am I going to try to get on that one too? So right now, I just try to focus my attention on Facebook, where you can find me under Tanji Johnson Bridgman, Instagram, which is official Tanji Johnson. And then my husband and I have a business together that is a sports chiropractic and functional medicine wellness clinic. And you can find us under Bridgman Health Solutions. So those are the main ways that you can find us. Up next for me is I'm going to be judging the Rising Phoenix competition, which I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody. And like I said, I have the Pose Like a Pro Academy.com, which is my posing curriculum. I have bikini, figure, wellness. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, but I do want to stop in this by saying, even though we talk about all the accomplishment on all the different things we're doing, I really want to share that I'm in a season of my life where I'm actually really stopping and smelling the roses. You know how everyone says, you got to stop and smell the roses. Well, I want you guys to know that I'm in a wonderful season where I feel like I am stopping to smell the roses. And what that means is, even though it seems like there's a lot going on, I have been able to manage my time, leverage my energy in business and how I use my personal time to where I am doing so much more outside of work right now that has nothing to do with work. I am into gardening. I'm becoming a cat woman, a plant woman. I'm about to get chickens. So we literally had our chicken coop delivered. I'm totally into flower. If you go to my Instagram, you'll probably see at least once a week this amazing flower arrangement, because I'm into flowers. So I put floral arrangements, but I just feel like I'm 46 now, and I have not in the last 40 years of my life had this type of time and energy to just live and just be at peace and feel restful, because I was always striving. And there's nothing wrong with striving, but I'm just really happy that I did that in my 20s and 30s. And now I can just get to enjoy the fruit of the harvest. And I feel like I'm enjoying the good life. Right. Yeah. And I think that's important, because some people will spend their entire life striving, and then we don't know when our time is going to come. And so I just feel really lucky and grateful that I'm at that place where, I'm serving and I'm working and I'm doing things in my career, but I'm most proud of what I'm doing just in my personal life, as far as how I'm living in that way.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure your husband is appreciative of that too, because I know our men, they want us to do what we want to do and they support all of us, but I'm sure he's like, okay, I can breathe because Tanji's breathing, and she's available to be a wife for me when when he needs his wife time, right? Like, and that just isn't about, husband, wife. It's like just that quality time of spending and growing and nurturing that relationship is so important. And that's, ultimately that's a commitment you made with God. And that's the most important commitment outside of your relationship with Jesus, that you'll ever have. So I'm thankful to hear that you're in that place. We always want our friends and the people we care about to be in those places. And it's really wonderful to hear that for you and to know that. So thank you for sharing with us that beautiful testimony of where you are now.
Thank you.
And the thing is you said in the beginning of this conversation a while back that, you had some mindset about maybe this political kind of path.
Yeah.
So this might be your time to kind of, just take a breather, kind of regroup, spend some quality time here before God opens up a door for you.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, and I love the stop to smell the roses, but I do the stop and pet the dogs.
Yes.
So if I ever see a dog, I'm like, can I pet your dog?
I know. I'm wanting, now that the pandemic is over, there's this, I recently moved here. There's this dog shelter that I want to volunteer at, because I'm like obsessed with,
going to be coming home with all the dogs.
I wish I could I have a condo. I wish I could just adopt every rescue dog and just bring them in my arms.
Wendy, you're going to go, but you're not allowed to bring a dog home. And Wendy's going to be like,
I know. It's going to be hard.
Promise me you do not bring a dog home. That would be my husband. To be like, okay, you're not allowed to bring any animals home.
That's why I need a volunteer, because he's not into wanting to adopt every dog, and I am. So something we don't see eye to eye on.
Oh, so wonderful. I love this conversation, and you're such a beautiful speaker. And the thing is you weren't just telling us information, you were sharing your heart, and it's really special, and I feel teary-eyed because it's hard to say bye. I'm really bad at bye, so I just said bye.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate both of you. Thanks, you guys.
It was awesome, Tanji. Thank you so much, sweetheart. We'll see you soon. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Wendy, I'm bad at byes. You know that. So what a wonderful
conversation. I say bye. That was probably one of my favorite conversations.
I know, it's amazing.
That was just. Both of you guys are two of my favorite, and that was I needed that right now. In a weird way, I just really needed that conversation. So
me too.
Thank you.
Very special.
Thank you for letting me be a part of that. It was awesome.
Thank you for co-hosting, Wendy. You look beautiful, and I can't wait to catch up with you about your show prep.
Yes.
Coming up.
All right. Okay. We will be in touch, okay?
Yes. Love you. Bye, sweetheart. All right, well, that's a wrap with Tanji Johnson, the legendary Tanji Johnson. What an amazing story. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I know there's quite a few times where I just felt like right now, like a little teary-eyed. Just, you hear these stories, you hear the trials and the dedication and the life journey. And, I've been in this industry for 30 years, and it's just amazing to hear other people's journeys along the way. So what a special show. Thank you for joining. If you guys liked this show, there will be more coming. I have a wonderful lineup, so please make sure you tune in again. And as always, stay fit, love life. And thank you to my awesome sponsors, Egg White International, which I have every day in my hot tea. I know it sounds odd, but I got my own little concoction. Thank you. There they are. Legendary Foods. I've got amazing tasty pastries, which I'll have as dessert sometimes. And you can toast them a little bit. And I put some butter on mine, just like an old Pop-Tart, but healthy, keto friendly. And also their nut butters are some of my desserts. I'll have like a tablespoon of nut butter sometimes. One of their flavors. They've got amazing flavors. Pecan pralines. I mean, that's awesome. Big shout out to Alolife. These are products now for about 6 years, and every time out of the shower, spraying down after a towel dry with their spray mist. And then of course, every morning I take their Aloe Golds for healthy digestion. Stone Oak Orthodontics. I got my Invisalign in, straightening these teeth a little bit, get my crossbite out of there. Bodyscape Magazine Picture Groove. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll have a blessed rest of your day or night whenever you're tuning in. And I'm out for now. See you soon. Hi, everyone. Monica here. Just wanted to thank you so much for watching the Monica Brant Show. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share these videos. And and that little bell notification. Don't forget to click that so you'll get more great content every time there's a show uploaded or a video or anything else. So you guys, thank you so much for your support, and as always, stay fit and love life.